goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will.
Welcome to Perspective, a podcast for wedding creatives where we sit down, often with a special guest, and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry so you can learn from us and grow your wedding business. Hi, I'm Simon.
And I'm Greg.
Together, we are Cinemate Films, two Scottish-based wedding filmmakers who love nothing more than drinking coffee and talking shop with others in the wedding industry. And we've teamed up with Photography Farm to bring you 6... Hold on another finger. I'm holding my mic. 6 special episodes of this podcast in anticipation of, I was going to say London Thrive. It's not. It's Edinburgh Thrive. In anticipation of Edinburgh Thrive 2025 on the 4th and 5th of March at the Yotel Imaginex. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning. Can you hear that guy doing battle ropes next door? Hopefully you can't hear it on the podcast.
There's a gym next door. He's obviously banging around.
Is that what you call it, battle ropes?
It is battle ropes, yeah. Anyway, Greg, who are we speaking to this morning?
We are talking to the lovely Becy from Belle Art. Hello.
Hello, Becky.
Welcome back.
Hi, yeah, it's nice to be back so soon.
I know.
I mean, when did your episode come out last year? It was autumn,
I think. Was it?
Okay. So it's only been a couple of months. So thank you for coming back on. But obviously you're back on because you are one of those fantastic mentors for Thrive. And that's very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is exciting. It's amazing to be asked. I think this is the biggest kind of thing that I've ever spoken at, mentored at before.
Ooh, are you nervous? Do you get nervous with these things?
Yeah, of course. I am a little bit. I think I'm actually fine now. I will be just before the talk. I think that's the main thing that I'm nervous for.
Yeah.
Well, let's get some general catching up. What have you been up to? I mean, it's obviously, well, for people who are listening, we are recording this as of the 30th of January. I always like to keep people up to date just in case we talk geopolitics or something and it's not relevant when this episode comes out. But yeah, what have you been up to? What's the start of your year been looking like so far?
Very quiet because, as you know, I'm based on the Isle of Skye and most of my work are elopements. And it is dire here in January. Nothing is open. So not really anywhere to go and get coffee, which is very sad. But just in general, I mean, I'm looking outside today and it's blue skies, but you know, that's not synonymous with January. It's normally a pretty hard place to be. So no one really wants to come and get married here in January, weirdly enough. So
yeah.
I tend to have a quiet January, which is good because the schools are closed a lot because of the snow. So kids are here quite a lot.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And did you survive last week's storm unscathed in the house?
Yeah, do you know what? It was just like another day here because we just had the yellow weather warning, which is pretty usual for us. So.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, there was no difference here. I think you got the worst of it, or much worse than we did anyway.
Yeah. Lots of trampolines went missing. It was a right shame.
Mm-hmm.
When does your season start picking up then? Because obviously in my head, the weather is pretty bad up until March, and then it starts clearing up a little bit.
I actually really love March elopements just because everything kind of opens in March. So you've got all the restaurants. It's quite quiet here, so it's a really nice time to come. So I do I've got a couple in February, wintry ones, and then just a few in March, and then it picks up again April, May time.
Okay.
So yeah, it's quite nice. It's quite a slow, I feel like I need that rather than straight into busy. I need to wake up slowly into the season.
Yeah. Do you get that feeling where you go back, it's the first wedding back or first elopement back, and you kind of forget your custom buttons? You need to have a 5 minute just in the car, just reminding yourself how things work. Yeah.
How do I format my card again?
Yeah. Did I pack my cards? Oh my God. And you're checking your bag. Yeah.
Actually, I feel like those first ones probably get the best of you in some ways because you checking everything meticulously. You know, I'm like that, like over and over again, just because I doubt myself.
Yeah.
When it's in the busy season, you're kind of just in the flow of it, and things just do, like, you just do it automatically. But yeah, it's a lot more thought goes into. I probably shouldn't say this, but this
Well, I mean,
you.
yeah, I mean,
It's so true, though.
We all feel it, though.
Yeah.
We all understand that feeling of just getting back into it and feeling a little bit.
The ones that start getting the eagerness, you're like, oh, I'm ready to go.
That's true.
Yeah.
And then later in the season, I wouldn't say our skills dip, but maybe we're a wee bit tired, or who knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Thrive then. Just right off the bat, what have you got prepared for Thrive? And I mean, had you been to Thrive as an attendee before?
No, I haven't actually. It was
Okay.
one of the ones that I wanted to go to, but you know, when you're trying to juggle everything, like with kids and business, and I am also doing a master's, it's just never like, yeah, I feel like to book onto these things is like sometimes indulgent, and like, I probably should, because I really do enjoy meeting people and everything, but I hadn't been yet. So yeah, this is a whole new experience for me of Thrive. Yeah.
So did Lisa give you a topic to talk about, or have you chosen a topic?
No, she asked us what we wanted, and I guess if there was anything or like massive overlap, she'd have probably spoken to us, but I think it seems fine. So I sent her the topic outlines, which is kind of, for me, it's all about managing and like workflow. Like, it's quite businessy, but for me, I think that that's what most people do need help with, in the sense, and the shoot is where like the creative part comes in anyway, and I feel like you can talk through the creative mindset then, but the business part that I guess I've been working on for like nearly a decade now is where I think is, well, it's what makes you the money a lot of the time, like, you know. So for me, it's about managing your workflow, like how I manage my time effectively, and how people still have a real, like my clients still have a really smooth client experience. So I have a lot of automations that I use, but I've like spent a lot of time with working with people to build systems that work effectively. And yeah, it just allows me to basically work as little as possible on the admin and like business side, but still like manage it well, because I really love like my hobbies. I'm doing a master's, so I'm writing a lot for my master's and reading. And so I spend my days kind of like waking up and doing like the first hour or two of admin. And usually that, if I don't have a pile of editing, then that's enough for the day.
Yeah.
And I can move on and like do hobbies like my running or like something else. And I feel like I have over the last couple of years much better balance than I used to. So
that's cool.
Kind of, yeah.
I actually do have a section of this podcast dedicated to client experience and workflow, so that's very handy. However, I don't remember you mentioning that you were studying a master's last time you were on. Did you?
I don't know whether I've just started. I can't remember.
So what are you studying and why now? Okay, is there a big change afoot?
Not a massive change. I think it's like a slow kind of like dipping into the water. I really love what I do work-wise, but because I studied fine art initially and I did a lot of writing, and I've always wanted to write a book, and I kind of had been slowly writing it over the last several years, so it never really gotten around to doing anything. And I wanted a bit more help in that kind of direction, and putting contacts with publishers, and just opening my eyes, I guess, to more like literary theory and stuff like that. So I'm doing creative writing masters. It's like a distance learning one, because it's in London, the university.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So is this, like, have you always felt you've had a story deep inside you that you are waiting to write? Or is it one that you're like, I want to write a book, I need to start thinking of what the concept's going to be?
I guess a bit both. I guess I would write stories, because when I studied art, I would make films as well. So I guess I would write. It it was always a process of like writing and then creating something from that writing. But I guess it's like understanding that the writing can be something in itself, or maybe I would love to make a film in the future as well. But I think there's some I would like to publish more than one book. I would like to do it like not full time. I like this idea of being able to do multiple things, you know, and I guess because it sounds bad to say I get bored easily, but really I just like to try lots of things. I think, you know, we only have one life and I want to live it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Treat, what kind of genre? I mean, well, my assumption was that you must read a lot of books, but then that's not always the case if you're a storyteller, because you do have other outlets for storytelling. And I know that storyteller is like a broad brush that everyone kind of uses in the wedding industry, even though if I look at people's portfolios, I seem to not get that storyteller vibe. They call themselves storytellers, but I don't see it sometimes.
Yeah.
I guess it's hard with what people put on Instagram. You get like such a small snapshot, and I think people are very obsessed with putting the kind of the stage shots, like the amazing epic shots, and then like especially couple photos, and it's very hard to build up a story with just couple after couple after couple.
Yeah.
But you can do it, but still I think Instagram's a funny one. It's hard to convey, I think, someone's like style completely.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, going back to being a reader, I'm assuming you are a reader at this point.
Yeah.
And what kind of genres speak to you?
I've actually really gotten into poetry in the last year. I used to think that I didn't like it, and I realized that a lot of what I was writing was actually like accidental poetry. So, but I do like fiction. I like a lot of it depends what mood I'm in. But I've been reading a lot of it's classed as like creative nonfiction or a kind of like life writing. So like, I mean, I could like authors like Maggie Nelson, The Argonauts, or like Otessa Moshfegh. Like anyway, they're quite like experimental. They kind of sit between genres, and I think the reason why I've liked reading it is because that's where my writing sits. So I've kind of discovered work where I feel like I don't have to change the genre that I'm writing in. Okay. It can just sit within that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's cool. I hadn't heard of that author before. Yeah, cool. I'll definitely look her stuff up. That's cool. I'm intrigued to see what you come up with then after. I'm assuming that you're going to focus on your master's and then maybe think about it in like a few years, or have you already started to gather some thoughts?
Yeah, I've already been writing. I'm hoping to submit some like short stories or things for publishing over the next year or two and like work on, I guess, my style until like I have something, and maybe try and get a literary agent if I can.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's I don't know, because I talk about my wife's obsession with books quite often. I get a lot of book talk things, and there was a while where I was going through a poetry phase as well, not writing, just reading and performance poetry in particular. In fact, there's a great one that came across. It was like, I'm going to butcher the name of this, but it was something along the lines of like whatever or something like that. It was a feminist kind of critique on men's forcing women to speak, like in professional spheres or even non-professional spheres. It would appear that a lot of men critique women with like the way that they say ums and ahs, and like they just have that critique on them. And I thought it was a very powerful performance. I'll maybe try and find it again and maybe link it in the show notes.
Yeah,
or even just remind myself, because it was a long time ago that I saw it. But yeah, fascinating.
Going back to like the workflow type thing, because that is something that I feel a lot of people will struggle with. Like they can not easily, but it's easier to learn the photography techniques and hone your skill at that, especially if you're falling into a photography industry. But to learn the business side of things and streamlining things, it's a bit harder.
Yeah.
So obviously don't want to cover too much of your talk, but in broad strokes, like what's a couple of things that's been key to perfecting your sort of client journey?
I think it's kind of moving to a limited company helped, because I started to take myself a little bit outside of my work and not see like me as an artist, as Belle Art Photography, but me as the director of a company who has to make the company work and pay me and my husband a good salary, enough for us to live. And so he doesn't have to work, so he could stay home with the kids. So it was like a mindset thing to begin with. And it did, that limited company just helped me with that separation. It's not to say that you would have to be a limited company for that, but I guess the idea being that once you treat it like a business, more so than like an artistic career, perhaps, that you start to see it differently, and like the way that you perhaps forecast for things makes you market more effectively, because you feel more in control. You want to take a certain amount of bookings to make a certain amount of money. You're more confident in your pricing because of that, and it's not just like wishy-washy, like, oh, I'm gonna keep shooting, like, and when I get to this stage I can charge this, and not really planning as a business would, and potentially not ever offloading work on anyone else either, and doing everything yourself. And I think that some of the mistakes that people make probably is focusing too much on perfecting the photography and buying as many presets and editing courses and the best cameras possible before they've even looked at the foundations of their business and how, forecasted for the next few years, and how they're actually going to market, bring clients in. And then also, do they have a good enough workflow that when they have those clients, like they're having, they have a good enough experience that they're going to then recommend you? Because loads of people will book them, be like, thanks very much. And then they'll speak to them like 2 years later, just before their wedding, because their final balance is due. So I guess it's thinking about that journey from the whole time, from when people come in to inquire with you, like all the way through to when they get their gallery.
So as a business, are you VAT registered at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are the benefits, do you think, of being VAT registered? Because obviously you don't need to be VAT registered to be a limited company, but obviously when you start taking on clients and you reach a certain threshold, that tax bracket becomes something that people really need to consider. Yeah.
And I floated around that threshold for a couple of years with like major anxiety around it, and speaking to other photographers who are doing exactly the same. Yeah. And that comes with a lot of anxiety. Like I spent those 2 years really stressed. So I think there's a lot of fear around going over that threshold in VAT, especially in our industry, because there's just a lack of education in it. And I think that creators are a lot of them will even do their own accounts and things. They won't even get an accountant. And I think it is just like anything, like knowledge is power. And I spent a lot of time, because I was stressed about it, reading up about VAT, having meetings with accountants, and then understanding like the flat rate scheme. And then again, like when I had to go to 20%, because my business model is different to some people's, because I do all inclusive packages. So I take quite a lot of money, because I then pay out for accommodation and things like that. Yeah. Once I decided on that business model, I mean, I just went way over the VAT threshold. And so that then comes with, like, I have to claim back VAT for things and be more like better at doing that. But there's benefits in the fact that, like, I can pay me and my husband salaries and dividends like tax effectively. And I now have a really nice van, which I claim VAT back on. And like I have accountants that are good, that are like, this is the best kind of quarter to buy something for your business to offset some of the VAT. So I think it's really just about like learning about it. And I know it's like boring in a lot of creative people, because we don't we don't get taught these things ever. So you have to kind of take it upon yourself to learn it. But once you know, I think it makes everything less scary, and you can make like better business decisions because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think not all financial advice is equal, I would say. I mean, we know someone going through a similar thing. We won't name you, but they went to two other individuals who thought their advice would be handy. Turned out not to be very useful. And so another third party, we'll see. Yeah. We'll see how that goes. But
having an accountant that you can trust and that knows your business.
Yeah.
Like we've had the same accountant for 14 years and they know the wedding because of us. Like they never had a wedding photographer or filmmaker before as a client, but because of us, they know the industry now, and they know that, all right, this quarter is usually a quiet one for you guys, but it's okay because these quarters balance out and stuff like that. So having one that knows the industry and knows your business inside out can make you money eventually.
Yeah. If people are interested, they can, and in Scotland, you can look up Johnson Carmichael. They deal with us. They've been very good to us. And in fact, we also, I mean, have I spoke about this on the podcast? There's one year we technically went over the VAT threshold, but there was a loophole somewhere that they discovered that because we had so many American clients, they got taxed differently. And so they moved all of our American clients into this bracket, and then that we weren't suddenly over the VAT threshold. Again, I'm a layman. I don't know these things properly, so definitely get yourself someone involved in your business. And I understand it is an expense, but I think, I mean, in that regard, they kind of paid for themselves.
Yeah,
like when that happened, and we started off being VAT registered, and then we had a couple of quiet years. We decided no, it's not worth the hassle of paying VAT. Came back off, and we have swithered again as to go back on, but I still think we're not VAT registered, are we? No, not
right now, no.
Not right now.
But you talk about
make their individual decisions for their company, but I just know, like, it put me off doing what I wanted to do for a couple of years because I felt like there was so much fear, and everyone that I would approach that are like friends would be like, oh, you don't want to do that. Like my friend got a huge VAT bill, and like, it's not scary if you know how much your VAT bills are going to be because you know how much money you're taking and you're keeping an eye on it, you know?
Yeah.
What is the VAT percentage now?
Standard's 20.
Standard's 20. Yeah. Okay.
Well, the flat rate is 11 if you can go on that. But personally, like the 20% is better because with the flat rate, you can only claim on purchases over 2,000, like the VAT back. It works out better for my company with all the things that I expense to be on the 20%. So again, it's like completely depends on everyone's business. But I think because I have a lot of American clients as well, and I include VAT in the price and they see the breakdown of it so that it's higher, but they obviously know it's higher because there's VAT. But I also don't think that people buying an all-inclusive package would expect me not to be VAT registered.
Yeah.
You talk about like outsourcing stuff and trying to work as little as possible while still growing a successful business. So what does a typical work week for you look like?
Probably Monday's quite a good admin day to deal with, like, just random. So I use a like task manager essentially called Asana. And that was good when I had like a couple of people working for me over the last few years, so I could like allocate tasks to them as well, and I could see everything. And then it's quite good because it brings up the days of the week in the calendar, and you can just move stuff about, which I constantly did. I don't want to do that today, moving along. But I would always have like coffee, and I stay in bed as long as possible and do emails and things. I catch up with emails. In a busy season, like I'll have the days of the week that I'm going to be shooting and editing. I only take client meetings one evening a week and 2 possible days. So it's either Monday or Tuesday for days and Monday evenings for meetings. And I usually will, do that in the morning, then go for a run if is training, and then come back, have brunch. And then in the afternoon, I would the afternoons at the moment have been for my reading and uni work. So mornings have been for with Belle, company work. And then, and that's kind of the same, because outside of season, I give myself more things to do, more blogging, more updating my website, because I had to redo my website for that whole flow theme saga thing. So I'd been doing that over the quiet season, and doing more blogging for SEO purposes. And then, so mornings would either be emails, editing, run, then afternoon work, or just chill with my candles and my incense, listen to some music. And if I've got a lot of editing, I'll do that too. But it's very chilled, and I don't tend to work past when the kids come back from school either. So my work day is very much, regardless, 9 till 3:30, with a break for brunch and running.
I want to talk about, obviously you're not just a photographer for your clients, you help plan their elopement as well. I want to hear more about that experience, because is that partly why you've implemented all these automations into your workflow for your clients? Yeah,
it's a lot for me as well. So I the automations are both for my clients, automated emails, but also automations for my own tasks that come up.
Okay.
To tell me what I need to do for them. So I have it programmed for them to tell me, book their restaurant 3 months before, book in their flowers. So all of these things come up at the time that they're supposed to for each client, so I don't forget. And then there's also a string of emails that are sent off to them from Flowdesk, so they're all branded at certain points in their journey as well, to remind them to do things like legal paperwork, to remind them to book things if around Scotland for their trip, and just as much helpful information as I can give them, so that they kind of have I don't have to keep writing answers to the same questions over and over again.
That is quite annoying, I suppose. I suppose that's maybe something a photographer who's starting to build up their business might still be feeling, if you haven't implemented your automation yet. What tools do you actually use for doing your automation? I don't know if I asked you last time.
I use Dubsado and then Asana.
Okay. I think we did talk about Dubsado, didn't we, last time? I have a recollection.
So,
Do you think everyone should implement something like Dubsado into their workflow, or?
I don't think it has to be Dubsado. It can be another client management system, provided it has all the tools you need. I did use Studio Ninja before Dubsado, but with the planning, it wasn't wasn't intelligent enough, basically, for all of the things that I wanted. But I think even if you're starting out, I would say that having the business structure in place that allows you to grow will make you grow a lot quicker than if you're just kind of scrambling and using, not that I'm going to diss Excel spreadsheets. I know there's probably some people that still use that kind of thing, and I did when I started, but I feel like you're setting yourself up for mistakes or failure if you've not got a really good system in place. And I think it's starting like that, like any other company would be to start with the business and then be ready for growth, as opposed to just trying to kind of backtrack and people are trying to do things retrospectively, trying to and they're just they're not able to actually stay on top of their bookings or their editing, or nothing is cohesive. Clients are emailing them for information that they should have sent out to them already. And I think it's
there might be that misconception though with automation that you're kind of losing almost like a personal touch with clients, that I think maybe probably newer photographers would maybe feel? What would you say to those creatives who maybe think that?
I mean, there's always an argument, but I would argue that it is much better for the client to get the right information at the right time than it is for everything to be completely personalized. I mean, the emails that I send out are personalized. Like, they have their names on, and they're kind of written in a way that doesn't make it sound like it's just regurgitated information over and over again. I've tried to do it. And most people, because they'll always like respond like, thanks so much for this, Becky. Like, they just think it's me. I mean, it is me, but
yeah,
kind of a robot too. I think professionalism is more like slightly more important. I think there is this emphasis on like everything has to be so personal in this industry, but I think as a business you can take yourself away from that, and actually some people will expect a level of that, especially nowadays. As long as you haven't written everything using AI, because you can kind of tell.
Yes, you can tell. I mean, I use a lot. I do use a lot of ChatGPT to like spell check and things and to help me write blogs, but you can absolutely tell when I have
me too. Blog posts are awful. It's like, on a fine day at the Kerrang.
Yes. The ChatGPT loves the word tapestry, which is really unfortunate because I also love to use the word tapestry. But yeah, if you ask it to describe Scotland, it'll be like, oh, the tapestry of the history of Scotland. Honestly, it's very funny. So yeah, I mean, you can absolutely scroll through our website and see ChatGPT all over it.
The thing about having that sort of workflow is most couples haven't been married before or don't know how to elope. So having those personal automated emails that go out just helps them, because they might be sitting at home going, oh, I don't know what I should be asking Becky. Maybe I'd like to know how to do this part of my elopement, but I don't know what to ask. And if they just get a wee email dropping in a couple of days later, coincidentally, it's like, oh, she's just so knowledgeable and helping me here. It comes across more personal by having all that, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's like a mixture of like, so I try to do a mixture of like that is like automated and there's a lot of emails, but I do also send welcome boxes where I've made a magazine with lots of information and like little candles and things from Sky. So, and the same when they arrive on Sky, they get like a personalized like blanket to keep warm, like a little, like some coffee from like the local roastery here and things like that.
That's
so
cool.
There's personal touches throughout. But then I also want that level of professionalism. And I think that, anticipating and it's the same with the like weddings, like bigger weddings. Like, yes, they might not need to know about like the trip to a certain place, but they don't actually know, like the best timelines for their day, like how far before their ceremony should they be ready, all of these things. Do they need lists for group shots? Should they have someone there to like be the spokesperson to get them so they don't have to do it? Like all of these things that make your life easier on the day as well, and also make you look really professional, I think are good to implement.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about value then, because I find reaching a certain type of client, that doesn't sound right to me. Reaching the clients that you want to work with and providing them with something like a service that they are looking for, I think is really important, and offering that at a value that both works for you and them. I mean, would you describe your service as like a high? Would you say it's a high ticket value, or am I even saying that right? I don't know. Every time I say something, it's not sounding right here. But I'm trying to get across the perceived value of a service and how you communicate that to a client and everything that's kind of involved in that. And I know that's kind of a complicated subject. And it can come off quite icky sometimes.
Yeah.
I really don't like it when people talk about their ideal client. I understand what someone's talking. It's like you want to work with the people who have the same sort of ideal and vision as you for a day, but I don't know. Anyway, yeah.
I feel like I've done enough now, especially of like the all-inclusive elopement packages, to know that the experience that they have and the feedback as well, like the experience that they have is really good. And so it is a luxury package. It's not like a quick runaway, let's elope, like because everything is so considered from their arrival. Like they'll come and they'll have like grazing boards and like dinner left for them and things like that. So there's so much that goes into it, which means a lot of organizing, a lot of running around the day before, or paying other people to do that. And so I think it is worth the price, and I wouldn't now do it for any less. And I also want to do, not do more than like 35 elopements in total, like over the year. It needs to be priced for that. And I need to take into consideration the fact that suppliers just up their prices every so often, usually without telling you first. So there's a lot of things to consider doing something like that. And there's not many companies that offer that kind of full inclusive package. So I feel like there is a market for it. And if you think like Americans that make up a lot of my clients, like some of them have not even been outside of the US. So like they want something like that as opposed to trying to do it all separately. So I do try and like market it as a luxury elopement package, not like just a elopement package, if that makes sense.
How do you deal with that sort of thing where a supplier's put their prices up £500? Do you keep track of that and constantly adjust your price, or have you just said, this is what I'm charging, I've got margin to cover some changes, and if a few people change the price, then you reassess it?
Yeah, to be fair, it's not been too bad because I've got like quite a few suppliers, but I have really good like working relationships with them. So most of the time they wouldn't, like, not everyone puts them up without telling me, but it's just that things, I don't know, like because you can book them quite far in advance. Not everything I can book is far in advance. So it's more like the smaller things that go up. The things like accommodation and celebrating that I book at the time of booking, I know what their prices are. But for example, like I always find it hard at this point to book for 2026 because accommodation are like, oh, we don't know. Some of them are like, we don't know. We can take a deposit, but we don't know fully what the price will be then. So then you kind of have to take a bit of a hit if you haven't like forecasted that well enough, if that makes sense. So it's hard. It's like, it's just constantly trying to tweak things. And that's why I put starting prices on my website, but I don't put the actual price. So that gives me the ability to tweak if necessary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those like wee things that you talked about, like the special touches of the welcome box and the blanket on arrival, they sort of add to the luxury and high-end feel of it, I guess. Are those things that you're shouting from the rooftop about before they've booked, or are those just secrets that they don't know until they get them?
Yeah, it's hard because I wanted them to know that they get little things, but I don't want them to know everything.
Yeah.
I have like this. I had someone come and video, and I have like video of like a behind the scenes, but also me talking in the studio about Elope with Belle, and people get that on the proposal when they inquire. So that talks a little bit more about the process, and there's like, there's little photos where there's like a photo of like the magazine that you get and stuff, like the front cover. So there's this like, I guess, idea that you're going to get things, and it says like a few secrets or something along the way. But no, I don't shout about every little thing because otherwise it wouldn't be a surprise. I want the like blanket and things to be a surprise when they arrive.
Yeah, that's cool. Why did you ask that question? Is it because you were thinking about our box?
No, it's just intrigued because that's something that elevates the service. So do they know? Do they not know?
Yeah. True. It's funny. Like we've spoken about price rising, increasing your prices as a photographer, and I think a lot of people get this notion that they want to do it every year. I mean, it's always good to reassess your prices every year, absolutely, but they have this arbitrary figure that they feel like they can only raise their prices up by each year.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Joe Schmo, I want to get to the £5,000 weddings, but I'm 2,500 right now. I'm going to raise my prices up £200.
Mm-hmm.
I hear that from a lot of photographers and filmmakers as well. And it's been interesting having conversations with other people in the wedding industry, because like I always go back to my conversation with Richard Lang, and I always think about that conversation on flexi pricing, and even how other photographers attach a moral aspect to how they price. It can be such a complicated thing. So what if, like, I suppose, where's your mindset in terms of, like, you're looking at your prices, you want to increase them, what should people be thinking of? Because I see a lot of people just wanting to raise their price, but that's all they do. And it's not a reflection on the amount of effort or work that they want to change.
I actually lost you for a second then, so I didn't get the full question.
That's because my questions are like 2 minutes long. That's so likely. Okay. I'm not going to ramble. I ramble too much. Well, what is your approach to photographers that are too scared? Like, they want to reach a higher market, but they are just raising their prices roughly £200 every year to try and slowly achieve whatever their expectation of, what's your approach? Like, if you're to give a photographer a words of advice to deal with fear in pricing, what would it be?
I would say that I know there's a lot of imposter syndrome within it, but again, if you look at it from more of a business perspective, that £200 a year is gonna cover like inflation, and like that's how, if you think about venue costs, how much they probably go up per year and everything rising. You're not actually going up a price bracket there, are you? You're staying the same, you're just rising with inflation, essentially. And I think that if you want to go up price brackets, then you really have to consider, like, what are you doing to communicate the value of what you are? Like, so if you feel that this is the right price for you now, like, how are you going to change what you do, what you offer, the packages that you do, in order to be more confident in selling at a higher price range?
Yep.
I think ultimately you have to be confident in the experience that you offer and the package that you offer, but you can also create packages that are more, add value. Like sometimes, like, I recently added another package that was actually smaller, but I took like little bits away because I realized there is a market for a very short elopement, because some people just have like a short, like even like registry office ceremony here and just want some photos after. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to create a more like lower package for that, but it'll have less photos, and it'll be like quick because I won't do prints or anything like that, just a digital gallery. But then, like, you can see the rise in the prices of the packages that really like have, like the really nice fine art albums, and a lot more planning and timelines and stuff go into it. And I really take the time to communicate what you get for that extra, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's hard when you're just comparing to other people constantly. Like, I don't really do that. I'm kind of just focused on my own business, and I know it's good to be aware of like competitors. I don't like to use that word in this industry, but like other businesses that are doing the same thing. It's good to be aware of what they're doing, but I think ultimately there's probably too much of that and not enough like just focusing on your own.
Yeah. And I suppose that there's a difference in a little bit of what I said there. And I'll take it from our point of view. Like, so for so long, I felt like I wanted to raise our prices. Like, this was years and years ago, like when we were halfway through our career. Well, we've not finished our career, but yeah, say 5 or 6 years in, I wanted to raise our price because I felt like we were just offering so much. And I felt like my effort wasn't just, my price wasn't justifying my effort. And so we already had the service and the product behind what we could have been. Like, I guess we were just too scared to up our prices, or we felt like the market wasn't going to stretch. And I can't remember how we overcame that, if I'm honest. Did we slowly, because over the years we slowly, you know, I mean, it was maybe a few years ago, we were just like, right, let's go a big step.
Yeah.
And then ever since that, it's been like, okay, well, I'm still overworked.
Yeah.
Can I offer less of a product?
Yeah.
So it's, and not offering less, it's just reducing certain elements of our package.
Yeah.
So
also not stretching yourself so much that it's like unattainable and you're going to burn out, because kind of like what we're trying to avoid. Like, you know, there has to be a good balance between doing enough. And I think sometimes when I started, I wouldn't increase yearly, I would increase more than that. But basically just when I got like enough more bookings that I felt like I had like a little bit of a safety net. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to push this more. And then like people kept looking at that price and I'm like, okay, another safety net, push it more. Yeah. And it was, for me, that felt comfortable doing that because like people were still happy to book at that price. And I'm like, okay, let's just keep moving that bar a little bit.
Yeah. In fact, I remember you said safety net. I'm pretty sure it was like Anne from Dunsky. She was like, you need to charge more. Yeah. Do you remember her saying that?
Not particularly.
No?
Not a specific conversation, no.
Yeah. It might have been when she'd had too much wine like at the end of a night, and she was just like, you guys need to charge more. I know how much you work. You need to up your prices. I'm like, oh, right, cool. But like by how much? She's like, thousands. Thousands. And of course she was, you know, enjoying in the night. She wasn't working. Or she was semi-working, but partying at the same time. Like when you've got someone who's not attached to your business and who works in another, they have their own business, and they're telling you that they can help get you clients that are going to be willing to pay a lot more, you feel like a little bit more justified in looking at your prices and like, oh, well, if someone's saying that, then maybe I am. And I do remember being very just introspective after that conversation, being like, yeah, I am overworked and I am all these things. Anyway.
You mentioned burnout there. I think last time we spoke, you were in a bit, not a burnout, but you were in a bit of a slump with your Instagram and not enjoying it, I think. So what's your relationship with social media and how are you using it just now? Has any of that changed?
Yes, I actually took a little break from it over the Christmas period, like completely deleted it from my phone, and that was nice. And you know what happened? Nothing. The world didn't stop. And I still got inquiries every day. And I was like, you know what? It's okay for me now where I'm at in my business to take my foot off the pedal a little bit with it. I've been actually spending more time doing Pinterest and blogging, like from the start of the year. Okay. And I've been working with Google Ads people, you get calls with people if you do Google Ads, and they've been helping me tweak my advertisements as well. And all of this stuff gives me way more inquiries than Instagram. So I think like I fixed it by not doing it and realizing that it's okay. So I'm not saying that it's not a good thing, because it is. And I do still get inquiries from there, but I'm very much under the idea of not putting all your eggs in one basket anyway.
Yeah.
And
do you have a specific workflow with regards to Pinterest or even blogging? Because I know many of us don't like blogging. I actually love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I like it with that. I've been using the pick time, like blogging thing that helps me for like blogging galleries. Not when I'm blogging like stuff like, you know, like informative blogs, but when I'm doing like people's galleries. Been using pick time, so that is really simple. And then I've been playing with AI, and it creates the funniest narratives for the text.
Yeah.
And then I have to go in and like rewrite the whole thing because it sounds like. But so sorry, what was the question? I lost it.
Pinterest and workflows.
Yeah, in terms of Pinterest, because it's one it's been there for years and years.
It has.
And some photographers have been big on it. They've really focused on it. But us included, I think a lot of people have just ignored it a wee bit.
Yeah.
So what's
still don't understand it.
Yeah. What's been your approach? You said you were working on it a bit at the start of the year. So what's been your approach to it recently?
Well, I've always used it for like personal use, like hair, tattoos, you know, stuff like that. And then I do still get inquiries where I'm like, wow, they found me on Pinterest and they're from pins like years ago. So I feel like it's like the content that you create on there can last for a very long time. But what I do tend to try and do is when I've written a blog post is one, they have like, I pin something straight from there, but I also will create something or a few little pins on Canva and upload them. When I was really into it, and this was mostly during lockdown, I used Tailwind because you can then send stuff out for like months at a time. So I'd spend a whole day basically scheduling pins for like the next few months.
Right.
But I fell off the bandwagon with that. But I am actually considering getting it again because that was the best app that I've ever seen for Pinterest. Just because then you can actually just spend one day doing it and then forget about it, and it'll just send stuff and repin stuff for you for the next few months. But yeah, I think it's really good to link with your blogs and your website.
Yeah. Do you notice any difference in the stuff that you're just pinning sort of on there or the stuff that you're creating in Canva? Like, is there any difference in I don't even know, the likes or the engagement with them at all?
Ones that work really well are where you like, I've tried some with text and they, unless it's like an informative one, I don't think they always go down too well. But when there's like, it's like looks very cinematic and there's like 4 in a row, you know, like 4 photos or 3 or something. And it's like a little bit of a story from there rather than just one photo, they tend to do the best. Okay.
That's cool. Every time I see something like that, I'm like, they don't do video, do they? I don't know why I see that aspect ratio because I think do you need to crop your images to get 4 of them in a? Yeah,
well, not on a pin. Pins are a bit longer. They're not like an Instagram post. They're more like a story, so they're quite easy to put in. They are cropped a little bit, but not too much. It's
okay, that's fine. It was just every time I see something on Instagram and a photographer has gone with that aspect ratio, I think, are they doing video now? Are they doing video? Competition.
Is that like a big fear now? Because a lot of photographers are doing video as well.
A fear? No.
I wouldn't say a fear, no, because there's always going to be a market for people that want to do a full, like, I'm hiring a videographer. So
yeah. I mean,
I don't see it as a fear, no.
It's not a fear. It's maybe opened up the possibility of us doing stills.
Yeah.
Because I think I enjoy. I mean, I do like big parties. I do like big weddings, but I just like being out in the hills as well. And I don't know.
It's maybe more of a fear for people who, like the couples who are like, oh, it's 6 months to my wedding. I've got a bit of budget left. I'll maybe get a video.
Yeah.
And they can only afford like 1,000 to 2,000 or something.
Yeah.
Though that market maybe is sort of a wee bit more in danger of social media content creators or add-on packages and stuff like that, maybe.
Yeah. And I really like those ones. But, Actually, I do want to add in something. You mentioned blogging with PickTime stuff. Should we mention this on the podcast? I don't know.
What is it?
Well, do you remember our SEO guy came back and was like, "Hey, you've got a lot of content, but Google is not able to see all your written stuff."
Okay.
And it was because PickTime had, what was it? It was the language that PickTime was using. Google couldn't read it.
Yeah.
So if you have an SEO guy, and I think we might need to speak to our SEO guy just for more information. Maybe this can be an on-topic episode. But I know that Google does not read whatever language PickTime blogs are written in. I can't remember. I'm a layman in terms of SEO languages and shit. If you're more into that, have a look at it, because we had loads of blogs, but Google thought our website was tiny because it couldn't read it. So just be aware, and I'm definitely gonna speak to Gordon about it.
Yeah,
get more information, and then go, hey, PickTime, by the way, because that might be helpful. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder. I have had a look at a couple that I've written, and they tend to do okay for Sky, but it's probably not a huge competition in the set. If you know what I mean, for maybe it's not competitive keywords or anything, but I will go in and make sure that all of them have alt text, and also the descriptions on the when you have the Yoast plugin and it tells you how to maybe it would be a case of adding in a bit of text before it that Google could read potentially. I don't know, but PickTime makes it so easy to blog with the gallery. I hate to have to not be able to use that.
Yeah, but all the images are there. They're ready to just embed easily. You don't have to resize them or anything.
I know. I do love it. But just if you're skilled enough, have a look at it. Again, take it with a grain of salt, because I don't know all the information myself. I just know our SEO guy came and said these things to us, and we still don't know. So I think I'm definitely going to book him on the podcast to talk about this.
So you took a big break from Instagram, and it didn't impact your business. Have you found any ways since then to sort of manage your relationship with it a bit better? You've found any ways not to get burnt out to the level of having to delete the app yet?
Yeah, well, I am feeling very relaxed about it now, because I know that I'm still getting enough inquiries and work without it, and I've not really prioritized posting so much yet, because there's just other things that I was wanting to work on in terms of website and things like that. So trying to create more content on there. Just didn't have the headspace for it. But I think going forward, I am looking at hiring someone and I'm going to try it. I've tried it before with my VA, but they weren't specialized in social media. So I am considering to see if it would make a difference in terms of bookings, for someone to create reels and things for me. And yeah, I will have a look at that, because it's not really something that I want to spend a lot of my time doing. So again, with the whole outsourcing thing, if I can see a return on it, and these things you have to try, I think, for a good few months. So it's putting that investment in with someone and making a judgment after a few months to see whether it was worth it. So I'll try that.
Yeah.
Cool. If you needed a VA, I'm intrigued to see how many people actually use them or need them. What's your experience been with VAs?
Not used one.
But you are one.
Yeah, I do help out a few people, so yeah.
One thing we didn't get a chance to speak about last time, I don't think we spoke about this, was your Super 8 films.
Oh, yeah.
Which I love. But we were talking... who were we talking to? Oh my God, who were we talking to just yesterday? Nathan and
Joanna.
Nathan and Joanna. God, what's wrong with me? And they were talking about how they were implementing, was it High 8? We're using High 8. They were using another Digicam. Tape, a Digicam, that's right. And they were talking about their fear in using Super 8 as a medium, because I think Nathan had tried it once and it I don't know if the camera wasn't working or if the film was just expired or whatever, but it didn't work, and it cost them a lot of money to find out that it didn't work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to know, what's your experience been from using, I don't want to say an unreliable format, but a format with a little bit more risk?
Good contracts. No. I have I've been doing it. I used Super 8 and 16mm in uni, but then I started doing the films in 2017. So it's been a while that I've been using Super 8 and 16mm. I have I get good, it's again like trusting your suppliers. So I get my cameras from a reliable source that have been tested, but I also test them before. And the same with the film. I get it from a really good, reliable source. I've never had issues with any of it. Well, actually, I've had one issue once with a camera. And that's in how many films? I must have done maybe 300 films, and I've had one issue.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I like those odds.
Yeah.
And I guess it's I know those cameras so well. It can, everything that goes wrong, and I can use them all manually. I've been actually, for the last few years, I've been using 16mm, even though I call it Super 8 because that's what people know. I actually use 16mm more because it's got better latitude. Is that what you would say? The film, because the film.
The film?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can shoot them manually. If something goes wrong with the light meter, they have a manual kind of override, which a lot of Super 8 films don't, which I've had to use a couple of times because I haven't agreed with what the light meter is kind of putting out. So, yeah, and I always have backup cameras. So it costs a lot, but then it's worth it for what I add on extra to the packages for them to include Super 8.
Yeah. So... tell us about that. How do you offer it? What is the add-on, and what do you create?
So I create a 3 to 4 minute highlight film. So just these a 4-second kind of burst throughout to music for them, and they also I'm get the reel back, the actual film reel and stuff. Sorry, what was the other question?
What would you offer in your full gallery?
Oh yeah, so I have with Belle, the all-inclusive package, it's included in there, and then for my photography packages, all of the packages are priced photo only or photo and Super 8 film.
Yeah, and
it's £1,500 extra for the Super 8 film, and the majority of people get them.
You mentioned your reliable suppliers and things. Can you name them, just in case people want to try film out, but again they're scared because film is expensive right now, so it's good to have reliable gear.
Yeah, so on 8mm I've been the scanners and the film processors and where I get the film from. So you normally buy the film with their processing and scanning included. So I send it to them. They're always really quick. There's whenever there's been even a slight issue, I also pay for the best light scanning, so they scan each frame so they'll correct the exposure as well if there has been any difficulties with the cameras. And then where I get cameras from a lot is from a place called Camera Crate. There's a shop, they have an Etsy shop, but they've always been really reliable. And I've spoken to him on the phone when I want certain other, a replacement for a camera and I want that specific one. He'll keep an eye out for it.
Yeah.
Ah, cool. Okay.
As you say, you're always testing it yourself as well. You're not just relying on a supplier to tell you that it works. You're checking it yourself.
Yeah, you have to shoot a roll of film, send it off. So then that's an expense when you get a new camera, but at least then you know.
Yeah. Just as with a digital camera, you wouldn't take a brand new camera on a wedding without shooting something personal on it, would you? I don't think I would anyway.
I think we have.
Really?
I think so.
You've never shot something on the camera before going to a wedding?
Maybe a one test clip, but that's not really, I don't know. Yeah, I would now put something through its paces a little bit more than. Although maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'll just go ham and go crazy. With the films, are you just trying to create like a vibe, or are you again storytelling? Is there much storytelling involved with such a little clip, or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the editing comes like they're similar to digital. I try to really fit the vibe of the couple. So some of the Super 8 clips are a lot more like I feel like the vibe of the couple, if they're like quite like high energy, they move a lot. There's a lot more like fast-paced clips, slightly faster music to match them. And then other people I'll actually do like slow, like, 54 frames per second and get some slow motion stuff throughout.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And then also like fade in and fade out a lot more to match and try and do that on camera as well. Again, the getting stuff on camera stuff is just to stop me from having to edit so much after.
Yeah. Do you are you using the QuickTime video delivery?
Yeah, I've just started using that. I wasn't using that because obviously I didn't have it, but I would have a Vimeo of their film on their gallery.
Okay.
But then I would also send their film separately. And I'm still doing that, like uploading all their films to Vimeo and then also sending them separately. But I have started using the QuickTime one, and so far so good. People have been okay with the downloading of them.
Cool. Yeah.
So on a day, like with Super 8 or 16mm, you don't need tons of footage to put together a short highlights. But how do you split your mindset in terms of when to use that camera and like a photo moment versus a video moment?
Yeah. I think when you've been doing it so long, it's like easy. Some things are better for movement and others still. I feel like it's easy to make that distinction in my head. And I have like, obviously the separate two cameras. So to me, there's distinctions there as well. But for example, like I know what I need to get. I know I need to get like some surrounding shots to build up and so I go and do that. And then I need a few moments of them getting ready. And that's quite easy to balance, like photo and film, especially for an elopement, because there's only two of them. So that story is quite small, really, isn't it? Like the story goes during the day. There's no other people in there that you need to get those kind of relationships as well. So then the ceremony celebrants are really good that I work with, of like, for example, getting them to kiss twice, or the hand fasting as an example, which is like quite a fast thing, but I will get photos of them like holding it and then photos of them when they've split it apart, but the video is of them pulling it.
Okay. Yep.
So it's like little things like that, making the decision of what fits better. But yeah, you're not there to capture every single minute detail anyway. You are there to tell a story and give like like this kind of overview of the day. And in some ways I feel like sometimes I wish I could just give them like 50 photos from the day.
Yeah. Are you going to be doing any 16mm on your second day session at Thrive?
Ooh.
No, I'm going to do just photos only for that. I think because it's a whole kind of thing to teach someone that, and that would have to have come within like I think what I've spoken about, and also let people know before the shoot. But I think for having basically 90 minutes, I think, sessions, like I don't think they're really long enough to teach people how to do both. Like whenever I've done that in the past of workshops, I've had like several hours kind of thing to like and to speak about it first, and then for people to come prepared and to like practice. So yeah, no, photos only.
Yeah.
Sweet. What is your second day going to be looking like?
So I think the Thrive, they just posted the mood board yesterday, and so I've got Jay and Sam as models, who are like the loveliest gay couple, and I've worked with them before on another workshop, and I just really gelled with them and I wanted to work with them again. And I kind of have gone, because it's like Edinburgh, and I've booked an Airbnb with like really nice light, kind of like quite Victorian style, and I wanted this like really kind of dark kind of like academia aesthetic, kind of like I was hoping for like a really moody, misty day in Edinburgh, and like photos of them like near the window and like on the bed, like quite intimate, like, and then a few of them like kind of running through the streets together, like it's this kind of like a quiet morning together, really intimate. That's what I'm imagining.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds nice.
Edinburgh is the perfect city for that kind of dark academia.
Fingers crossed for that moody weather.
I'll have to work out what to do if it's like bright sunshine.
Where is the Hotel Imaginex location wise in Edinburgh? Do you know?
I think it's on Queen Street. I think.
Is that
okay?
Okay.
Central.
So fairly close by to some cool places to shoot.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Going back to creative storytelling, you mentioned obviously with Super 8, Super 16, getting a feel for the couple, how they are on the day, their energy, and having that match their film.
Yeah.
What techniques are you using to do that with stills then?
I guess a lot, obviously when you're doing elopement, it's a lot about couple portraits and things. So I think that's where the creative side comes in, because the ceremony, I don't want to be someone that's really overbearing, especially in the morning when they're feeling quite nervous. And so I prefer to be a little bit more of a fly on the wall. Like I often have to like help people into their outfits and like, you know, so I'm not just there to take photos. I'm there to be like the supportive, like, you know, bridal party as well almost. So yeah, and also making sure they've had food and stuff so they don't get hangry or things like that. So I'm like I'm a mum as well on the day. And then so I feel like that, or getting the surrounding shots of where they're staying, what the weather's like, all of that kind of feel first, doing like making sure that I'm just there to make them feel really comfortable. I feel like the more comfortable they are, the better photos I'm going to get later as well. And then the ceremony, again, like just trying to capture what's going on, not so that they don't feel like I'm there or feel imposing. And then the couple photos, I feel like what reflect who they are. And, you know, I've had like quite a lot of high energy couples where there's been a lot more movement, a lot more running, like embracing the rain, picking each other up, like running into the sea, things like that. Whereas there's some couples who are like a lot quiet. They're quite like maybe a little bit introverted and will go to the forest, find somewhere cozy so I can get them comfortable and like depending on the weather as well. And those shots, I guess, are different because they reflect who they are. And ultimately that's what I want to do. I don't want to take a really outgoing couple and make them do really like shots that don't feel like they would be representative of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think photographers in general are fairly good at judging a couple and their energy, or do you think that they want to use a couple to create images that reflect their brand more?
I would say that any good photographer that's had some experience is really good at reading a couple. I feel like you kind of have to be, don't you, to succeed in this industry, like good people readers, and you make people feel comfortable and people like their photos. So I would say that that's what makes you have like a long-term business that's successful. Perhaps it is a mistake that maybe new photographers can make because they feel like they have to create for a certain style.
Yeah.
We've all kind of been there, I think, when we've started, like, and yeah, I remember like doing a lot of engagement sessions before I started because I would include them in the package, and then kind of think of like going on Pinterest and I've got like this like mood board of like poses and I'm like, okay, what poses am I going to do? And I would never work like that now ever, but like I guess it's because I'm like, what looks cool? What's going to get me featured somewhere? But now I don't think like that. So it's not to say it's a really bad thing, but I do think with time and experience, you don't think about what is trending or what how to make someone fit your brand, and you think more about the couple.
Yeah.
Do you do like your own personal projects to be able to scratch that itch of doing things that you want to do and that are specific to that vision at all?
Yeah, I guess so. The workshops, I haven't done any this year because I needed a little bit of a break. Sorry, last year. But when I was running my own workshops, I guess they in my head were like this idea when it came to couples and stuff of what I wanted to create. And then, yeah, I've done a lot more portraiture. I've got like a little shed studio thing. So I've done a lot more portraits like that. And I do self-portrait projects. And then obviously my writing is a creative outlet that allows me to, I'm really thankful for that creative outlet, because I feel like it's what we do. Not to say we aren't artists or creatives, but it is a lot of like service as well. And I don't feel like I would be creatively fulfilled from just doing elopements, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You mentioned like having a long career and success and stuff, and trying to like plan for longevity in your work. Where do you see the elopement industry in Scotland in particular going in the next 5-10 years? Because it's one that if you look back 10, 15 years ago, I'm not saying it didn't exist, but it didn't exist in the way it does now. Like it's definitely popular and changed in the last 10 years. So where do you see that industry going in the next 5-10 years?
I mean, I think it's actually going to thrive within the next 5. I don't want to say 10 because I've read a lot about AI and I am worried about the future of our world, amongst other things politically that are going on in the world. So who bloody knows? But I think that it will thrive hopefully in the next 5 years, because in the sense of like the state of the world, like Scotland's not doing too badly in terms of climate change. It's a pretty safe place to come to elope. And I think that with the cost of living in general, people are probably looking to scale down weddings slightly and look for options of like that. Yeah. That's just my point of view, by the way, or idea. But I think it's got longevity in it, elopements. I think there's enough, like people that come to Scotland, they tend to have a history with the place, or they feel a connection to the place. And so it's important for them to be here. And I don't think that's going away anytime soon.
Yeah. The amount of couples that we film and they're like, oh yeah, this is my ancestor's castle, this one. You're like, right. But hey, they're coming over here to get married and paying us. So
yeah.
I believe them.
That reminded me, Art by Fable. Tell me about it. What is this?
Well, it was just a little like idea of, not that I would write under that, but the idea for it, I guess I just didn't want Becky Stabler. I don't know why. I didn't feel like intriguing enough for another like playful Instagram or website or blog, whatever it is that I was trying to create. And so my previous surname was Farr, and now I'm Stabler. So it was kind of like putting them together, but also Fable is obviously like a story. So that was a way that I could start sharing some like portraits, poetry, blog writing, stuff like that. And it's kind of like a bit more personal, collated, so that I can see how my work's evolving. Mm-hmm. It's not really anything in terms of like commercial.
Yeah.
Not yet.
It's just, I don't remember coming across this last time. Which
I don't think I put it on there then. I hadn't really. I did a little website for it, kind of like over winter.
Right.
I started like posting bits of writing and like poetry alongside kind of some portraits and things.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, what is this? Oh, what is this called again? Sorry, I'm looking at your website, the by Fable, and you've got a book you've used Tipex. What's that called again?
Yeah. Erasure poetry.
Yeah, I love that idea. What did I? Oh God, I'm not going to remember the resource, but there was like prints of words of poems, and they had done that with the black markers to say very specific things from works that were that held the opposing view on certain political things.
Shall we go show and tell? Put some images up.
All right, fine.
Let's talk about some of your photos.
Okay.
So, I think all the images I picked were from your Hasselblad collection, because I remember last time we talked about your shed, which you described very much as just a shed. You didn't. You say studio. It's just a shed in your back garden.
Glorified shed.
Glorified shed. And I picked some of your more surreal images. So I think I went in a completely different direction this time around, and just get with your out and about images. Out and about images. So, first of all, can you see the screen?
A little bit. I think, is it the one? It's a bit blurry. Is it the one with the rainbow?
It's the one with the rainbow. Yeah.
It's a really rainbow, by the way.
I actually loved this image, but I think I loved it because I mean, obviously the rainbow. That's cool. I've never seen a rainbow in this location, but I loved it because the rainbow arcs in a similar way that the hills do. So you've got those leading lines, I suppose you would say, although it's not leading anywhere. But yeah, I just love the fact that the rainbow is there, and the colors of the rainbow. You know, it's not like it stands out massively. I mean, that might be your color grade. I'm not sure on specific tones, but you know, the kind of the warmth of the yellow and orangey tones kind of complement the greens of the grass and the flowers here. And I just really like the image. And it's a very simple, you know, couple kissing, center framed, but you've got that nice rainbow that I've never seen in this location. So can you tell me about whether or not a rainbow is actually rare here? Because sky is very rainy, and when you get sun and rain, you get rainbows. Science, folks. So tell me your thoughts. Did you just see it here and go, I'm going to make this image, or yeah?
Yeah. So I remember that day with Charlotte and Rick. So they, it was on and off storms, and I wouldn't say that rainbows are quite common on Skye, obviously with the like tumultuous weather, but they're not in that exact spot with the, you haven't seen many there. So they'd had their ceremony at another part of the Quang, and then we'd gone there for some photos. And then I was actually like something like maybe like 36 weeks pregnant at this point, because I remember I had someone with me assisting. Anyway, like Charlotte and I saw that rainbow, and we just made them kind of like run into it. And it was just a case of like really quick before it goes, because those rainbows don't last very long at all. So I probably didn't consider the framing too much, not consciously, probably subconsciously, but it was really about capturing them in that rainbow, and that idea of like, that's the, you know, that rainbow came out just after your ceremony, like it's important, like you want to remember it, so let's create something with it. And then I would have like, it probably would have been quite faded, so I would have brushed over it and tried to like bring out the saturation a little bit. I think like it wasn't like really vibrant.
Yeah, rainbows are so hard to capture. Like I think in photos as well, but in video, like you see them with your eyes and you're like, oh, that looks incredible. And then you film it and you're like, it just looks a bit lackluster in the camera. Yeah.
Or maybe we're both just shit.
Maybe it's just me.
It could be that. It could be that. We were actually, again, going back to that conversation that we were having with Joanna and Nathan yesterday, where they were talking about this area, and we were talking about ropes being built in specific areas. Was this before the ropes?
Yeah, it was before the ropes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's looking very lush, so it is looking lush. Looks as if it was in a good condition at that point.
Yeah, that was like October time.
Yeah.
But this, if I'm right in saying, this is the part of the cliff where you actually can, like, it has been roped off, this section, right?
Yeah, like it hasn't been roped around the back of them, but from the top of the path, it's been roped.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on all the ropes? And yeah, all the ropes.
Well, as someone who lives here, I understand it with the way that, like, the tourist, like how much tourism there is, how much it's grown, and how it's necessary to preserve the land. As a photographer's point of view, it's fucking annoying because I want to easily get down onto there, and admittedly do go around the ropes a fair amount.
Do you know more on the legal side of the ropes? Who puts them up? Do you still have the right of way to step over the ropes or walk around them? Because again, we're speaking. Neither of us kind of knew the legality, but obviously in Scotland you do have the right to roam, as we casually say. It's not actually, that's not the actual law. It's, I can't remember, right to fair use of the land or something. Do you know any more details about this?
I don't. I'd be lying if I said I did. But there's no actual signage to say you can't. I feel like at this point I'm very much operating under an ignorance is bliss and just carefully going around the rope and down to
so you still would go, you would still go around the ropes?
Yeah
Okay. I mean, I feel like it's a statement by rebelliously not doing as we're told, but I'm sort of the same. If it doesn't look dangerous, it's the same with,
obviously I'm very adverse to like danger and risk in terms of like weather and things and safety there. I think it's to do with like there's still, it hasn't stopped. There's still landslides at the Kerrang, so they're obviously trying to stop the level of tourists impacting that. So yeah, it's trying to be considerate, but it's hard.
It is hard. It's the same sort of concept that I have with drone signs. If ever I'm walking somewhere and I see no drones, I'm like, technically, and forgive me if you are more knowledgeable listener with with this advice, technically they don't have the right to control the airspace above land. Now, I think legally they can make sure that you don't take off from a certain piece of land, but in terms of like the Oman, for example, where there's a very long path and no droning anywhere, who owns the land? I don't know. I'm
not sure about the Old Manor Store. I know there's quite a few bits of land on Skye that are privately owned. I'm not sure if that's actually one of them. Like, for example, like you can't have any wedding ceremonies at East Point or photos.
Yes, I remember the old story of the guy who owns the land coming out with a shotgun and just scaring away people. I don't know if that still happens. Oh, well, that was just a myth. I don't know.
Well, I've heard there's been weddings stopped, and then I had like a very arsey phone call with a certain man who owned the land after I took people there.
Yes. Yeah. It's tricky. It's hard to know because there's all sorts of legislation around land and ownership and misconceptions as to what you can and can't do, the power of the land, the power of the airspace. It's very complicated. But I think the worst thing that you can come across, other than like private landowners, is people with an opinion that differs from you.
More, especially people on Facebook with an opinion that hide behind their keyboards.
Yeah.
If you want an opinion, create a podcast. Anyway, this next image, it's again, I think I picked this one in the same way as I picked the other one. Obviously, the rainbow stood out in the last one, but for me it's, and you could see a very similar effect, like those dark skies looming in the background, and you use the sun to light up the couple. You're not doing that to such a degree, but you are still getting that looming storm up ahead. But I always I love asking couples to be lifted by each other or to pick each other up or stuff, but I find it very hard actually to take a video of such moments because people are quite clumsy.
Yeah, they are.
And I find that very hard. Now, I don't know what your experience in like doing something on Super 8, for example, but how do you get past that clumsy feeling? Because here, these guys look great.
Yeah. To be fair, they were great. They weren't clumsy.
Okay.
So just some people the way they are, but like I guess you kind of weigh that up. Like that wasn't the first time he picked her up during like the elopement. And if I think it's worth the video, I'll take the video, and if not, I won't. For that, because if they're on like stable ground and he's got her and it's all fine, and then I'll ask them to sway a bit rather than spinning around. I don't think spinning around ever works well for videos. Like there's always like,
Yeah, I'm with you. For anyone who has had a couple of spinning around on video and you've made it look good, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to see your video.
Yeah, especially when there's like the long dress draping.
Yeah.
It just ties up around them and then it's chaos.
Yeah, it's like you need to have the right couple on the right on the right surface with the right dress on. And there's just so many elements.
Or it'd be like their vibe if it's like fun and it's like doesn't matter if they fall around a little bit, like you get them running and then picking up and you get that whole kind of like motion.
Yeah, that's cool. Oh, so this next image.
The wettest ceremony, like the wettest time, like elopement. I think
it looks crazy.
I love this again, and I wonder was this a happy accident? Because when rain or snow or confetti gets in the way of your autofocusing, if you use autofocus, I do use autofocus.
Yeah.
It can confuse your focus meter, and it can just shunt things. And I feel like I really like those happy accidents when it does that. I would love to know if this was an intentional image. But I love the fact that it's so
when
dark.
the rain and hail is that like crazy, like you don't want your cameras out for too long anyway, so everything's got to be quick. They were literally, so we were all soaked, like completely. Like I had like the dry robes on them after, but everything was just like you couldn't even lift the dry robes. They were so heavy because they were full of water. And so no, that was like a happy accident. I guess it's just about capturing movement. And then the thing that's not the accident is the intention of editing it and keeping it. Like that I love to create stuff like that. I think that's part of it, isn't it? Yeah.
I also love how dark and moody this is, and the fact that you've gone black and white, you've added grain. There are some again, I don't want to say presets, but there are some black and white presets or black and white coloring images in a way that's black and white that doesn't always work. And sometimes with these ones, you really do need that kind of crunchy contrast that makes them super moody, but it's a vibe. So you're going more for the feeling. But
more for the feeling.
Do you have like a technique to keep your cameras safe and dry, or like I remember making we were documenting a ceremony and the rain just came on so heavily we had to use bags because obviously it's not like a still where you can just get your camera out, snap and put it away again. With the video cameras you need to suffer for 30 minutes in the rain and hold that shot. And I remember I mean, going around all the lenses and just wiping them, and it was just so messy and mucky, and the cameras are soaked, and steam from the camera bags gets in your camera. Like, do you have any methods of just keeping your gear safe when you're out in the hills?
Well, yeah, but I guess because I, again, don't have to keep my cameras out for the whole time like you will, it's a little bit easier. Because I don't have any really technical ways. I wear a dry rope over a harness so my cameras are inside and then bring them out when I need them. So that's
Cool.
for like majority everyday rain here on Skye. And then like I've tried all sorts of different bags or covers for like holding them, because I don't want them round. I've never used one that like fits round the camera. I find them a bit too faffy.
Yeah. They're hard to shoot with. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And the same with like, I have like water, like really good like dry bags basically that I'll have on the ground, and so the Super 8 will go in and out of that when I need it.
Yeah,
because that must be the most susceptible to the rain. The Super 8 cameras, surely.
Yeah. That should be okay considering where we live.
Damn.
Yeah.
I think this is the last image. I love it. It's kind of got that kind of witchy bohemian vibe, which I really like. Also, too, you can't. There's a lot of images where you can just see sky, not the island of Skye. I mean, like actual sky. And I kind of like the fact that you can't hear. It gives this kind of. Well, I don't exactly know what kind of sense, but the fact that it's all that kind of like same tone, but her skin tone pops through. It's not quite negative space in that regard, but I don't know. There's just, you can see her skin so well in an image like this. Whereas if you were to show the sky, that contrast would be kind of lost. But I also like the fact that, you know, well, first of all, is this an actual person eloping?
No, it's one of the portrait sessions that I do.
Okay.
So I photographed Karina a couple of times. Well, actually, I think 3 times now. Photographed her this year. She's the one that comes back to me every year for a portrait session. And she practices witchcraft. Like, she's quite open about that on her Instagram. Like, she's like quite a spiritual person. And we wanted to kind of convey that, and she is amazing, like really easy to photograph, but she has all these dresses which she makes herself, so
wow.
Yes, it's a bit like that. And that's actually Glencoe, but it was just before the sunset as well, so you just get a little bit of light, so it was quite dark there. And yeah, it was just kind of about capturing her and that side of her.
Do you use a Pro Mist? I can't remember. Yeah, because I think sometimes when it comes to like these darker tones, a Pro Mist, I don't want to say muddies the shadows up a little bit, but
no, it does lower.
I actually do think that it does muddy up some of the colors, because when we use them on film, on videos, I often think, oh yeah, it's a little bit more muddy than I maybe would have liked in certain situations. Like in dark castles, when you don't have that contrast, things are a little bit more muddy. So I feel like I need to forgive myself a little bit more, because there's no amount of coloring that can get away from that. And I feel like you can either lean into it like you have here, and I really enjoy that aesthetic. I think it just works. Yeah, I think it just works here. But also, I find, you know, when you're working with couples, they're just normal people. They don't know really, in general, how to act in front of a camera. But the pose that you can see
that you've got a relationship with her, where she knows what you want, you know what she's gonna do.
Yeah.
And it's and it all works together to create that kind of, again, that bohemian witchy vibe that I got. And obviously you mentioned she was a witch. That makes complete sense. Do you ever find it, like, do you ever want to try those types of images with a normal couple, or again, that goes back to like putting your own stamp on images on someone's elopement. So maybe not, but
only if they've spoke to me before and they want that kind of vibe. Like I do get couples that come and they, like I did a really cool shoot through and had a really cool dress and like elephant ears that she put on, and she really wanted that kind of like, I don't know, I guess that kind of like witchy, like elfin like vibe too, and like wanted to do those kind of things. But it wouldn't work for a couple who that is not their like vibe or their personality. Like you know that when you meet a couple, you can tell what they're going to be like. So yeah, it's just trying to photograph people as people like and representative of who they are.
There's not many couples you could say just dance around with your arms and create something like that. Like that would not work.
Yeah, if they didn't feel comfortable, that would show.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, that image was just pure, just her being herself.
Yeah,
and I like that.
So, in wrapping up, do you have any book recommendations for our listeners? You obviously mentioned you're a big reader. Is there anything you'd recommend?
It's so funny because as soon as you say that, my brain, like all books, like, I really liked the film's out too, so maybe it's appropriate. But Night Bitch by Rachel Yoda.
Night Bitch.
Yeah, I think the book. I've not seen the film yet, but I've seen the trailer, and I think the book's better. Yeah, I really like Maggie Nelson's work. It's very fragmented, very like poetic. The Argonauts is my favorite one of hers. And yeah, so now the rest of my brain, it's gone left. For the last I've read probably like 3 or 4 books a week since I started the course. So, but my brain is full of words.
Is Night Bitch, was it Oscar nominated? I was looking at a list of Oscar nominees recently, and I feel like that's where I've heard it.
Maybe. I'm not actually sure about that, but I haven't paid too much attention to the film yet. But perhaps.
Yeah. Cool.
I just after I mentioned that poem earlier, I knew I hadn't got the name right. The poem is by Melissa Olivia. Yeah. And the poem title is Like Totally Whatever. And I remember spotting it on YouTube. It was Button Poetry. Great poem.
I'll have a look at it.
But again, I'll get Greg to put it in the show notes. Yeah. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. A little bit shorter than normal. My goodness.
Well, I mean, you need to speak to me.
And I feel like we did a good job of not repeating any information. This was a completely different chat. But yes, listeners, if you love this chat, there's another one that was recorded a couple of months ago. And it is very different. So definitely go and
I don't have a fringe, so a little bit different there.
That's right. I mean that might not come through on a podcast if you're just listening, but go to our YouTube. You can see a new hairstyle. Anyway, where can people find you online? Where's your sources?
I guess Instagram when I post. I do still keep up with stories, so you can get a bit like that. So Instagram, which is Belle Art Photography, or I guess now I've started posting a bit on Art by Fable, which is more writing and stuff like portraits. Pinterest, Belle Art Photography, or my website. I'm actually starting a Substack, which is new thing, but I started the other day and I'm still overwhelmed, so I'm not going to share it yet.
Right. Yeah. Hang on. Substack. My wife talked to me about Substack the other day.
That's for writing, isn't it?
Yeah, but I feel like it is quite bloggy, like writing, but there's a lot of creatives, artists on there that do smaller posts.
Yeah.
I don't really know what it is yet, but someone told me I should have it, and I've been looking into it, and then I created a profile, and now I'm like, now what?
Yeah, but she specifically wanted to write more detailed blogs on it. Is there another thing called Substacks? That was Oh, I don't know. Okay, never mind. My thoughts are usually vague.
You're talking
This
about the
one's-
music industry when you've got a stack of amps behind you?
No,
you got your subs?
no. I'm talking about like if you have a team, it can be good to have this kind of software, kind of like Notion or whatever the other ones are. So, is it Substack? No. Oh my God! Sorry. Right. Too much vague.
Anyway, there's another place to find you online.
Anyway, yeah, I'm definitely
Yeah.
gonna check that out and see. Thank you very much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me.
People can find us at perspectivebycinemate.com, our Instagram at perspective by cinemate, our YouTube at perspective by cinemate. If you typed in perspective by cinemate wherever you get your podcast, you'll find that there as well. And I hope you're ready for Thrive Edinburgh, because it is a 2-day all-star photography conference taught by 5 phenomenal mentors and Emma Lawson. Sorry, I keep laughing every time I do that. Taught by 6 phenomenal mentors on the 4th and 5th of March at the Hotel ImagineX. If you have loved this conversation as much as we have recorded it, I need to fix that. I can't say that properly, that outro. I need to rewrite that. You can follow us and subscribe wherever you can. Please do so. That helps us get our name out there. And we are 2 useless individuals who are terrible at marketing. However,
In the meantime,
enjoy your Thrive.